Stealing, of course, is a crime and a very impolite thing to do. But like most impolite things, it is excusable under certain circumstances. Stealing is not excusable if, for instance, you are in a museum and you decide that a certain painting would look better in your house, and you simply grab the painting and take it there. But if you were very, very hungry and you had no other way of obtaining money, it would be excusable to grab the painting, take it to your house, and eat it. Lemony Snicket. The Bling Ring, available on Netflix, is a 2013 satirical crime film. It follows the actions of 6 LA teenagers who decide to start breaking into celebrities' homes, partying, and stealing from them. The movie is visually pleasing and focuses on materialistic and obsessive behavior. While it received generally positive reviews, this movie was completely out of the comfort zone of anything we would normally pick to watch. Hey guys, welcome back to Geek Squawk. So we've been covering some pretty heavy movies and TV series, or at least like fan base heavy like series lately. So I figured I would change things up and pick a movie that everyone would absolutely hate to watch, and that is The Bling Ring. So it's based on a true story. Actually, the first series I ever binge watched on Netflix was called Pretty Wild. And it was based on Alexis Nyers, who is played by Emma Watson in this movie. And I remember I just turned it on because I was like, what's this? And I just kind of clicked on it and it played. And I ended up staying up all night watching it because I was like, what is this? Like, what is happening? And so whenever I watched the series, I kind of knew, like, from like what I remember, that was almost a decade ago, what happened like IRL, because I watched the reality version of it. The movie opens up with just kind of like hooded figures like breaking into a house. You get a like small glimpse of them. You can tell that they're like extremely young, like definitely teenagers. And they start just grabbing jewelry and like clothes out of this like extremely like nice house. So after that, it switches over to Mark, who's like getting ready for school, and he goes to school and his like new like it's like an alternative school in Calabasas. And so he's walking up and he like kind of like, everyone's like, oh, okay, weirdo. And like, okay, geek. I don't remember what all they called him. But in that exact scene where they were just like very like over dramatically, like making it obvious that this guy did not fit in. That's a scene that like I knew that like Darth and Mikey, when they were watching it, they're like, what am I watching? Like, why am I watching this show right now? Because they just like, they laid it on so thick. And I was just like, I feel so bad for them. And I've never seen this movie before, but I did, like I said, I did know like kind of, I knew the storyline going into it, like what happened. So I figured, I was like, why not?
It was based off true events, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I was surprised at how big names that were in the cast and how poorly acted it was in total. It was definitely interesting. There were some parts that were pretty awesome, and then I feel like most of the movie was people just saying, "Oh, I love this. This looks amazing. That's so hot." Like most of the movie. It was weird seeing Emma Watson with an American accent as well.
I'm telling you that she did Alexis, and like if you look, like she portrayed Alexis Nyers, who's like, she was the person in the reality show that I watched, perfectly. So like as dramatic and just like, oh my god, like I'm so like innocent. That is exactly how I remember her being. Like act like real. So is like annoying as it was. Yeah. That's why I was like, you said that and I was like, I'm telling you. People. Yeah. When you said that, I was like, I'm telling you. It was scary watching like Emma Watson do it, because I was like, this is like reality basically from what I remember how she was.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Tessa girl I like a lot. I've seen her obviously American Horror Story she's done. Leslie Mann's incredible actress. I was surprised. So there was a couple things I saw when I was looking at the trivia for this. The Kirsten Dunst cameo in the beginning, apparently that wasn't meant to be in the movie. She just was on set visiting the director one day. And so they're like, hey, you want to jump in this real quick? And then one of the big houses they visit, or they rob essentially, is Paris Hilton's house, and that's actually her house that they used in the movie.
Wow.
I was wondering that. I meant to look that up because I was like, this is too realistic. I was like, I feel like they spent, because I saw, like, they actually had her, like, in the movie. So I was like, okay, well, I was like, I know that, like, they probably, like, hit her up to use her house because this was the whole, like, scene where just, like, her face was everywhere. I was like, I can imagine how much money they spent on this when they probably could have just, like, paid Tara to use her real house. So.
And apparently Emma Watson's wallet was stolen while they were filming this. A little irony there.
So, at first, I thought about the acting as well. I was like, man, this, for being the actors and actresses and stuff that are in this film, like, I was like, the acting's kind of like falling a little flat. But the more I thought about it, I feel like these kind of people, this very upper class Beverly Hills kind of lifestyle that they're all living with, the partying and, you know, this kind of like, you know, that scene, I feel like that's kind of how these people act in a way. They kind of, you know, they really care about fashion and maybe like there's a lot of backstabbing and partying and, you know,
seems
stuff going
dreadful.
on. So I kind of feel like this is how those kind of people would act. And I looked at it like that, you know, and maybe the IRL people, you know, that this actually happened with, I don't imagine they're probably the most lively characters. I mean, they're probably just drug addicts and thieves and stuff. I mean,
yeah.
But I did like it. There was I felt a little repetitive in the beginning, you know, with just like kind of breaking into houses and stuff. And I feel like it started to kind of pick up more once we started to see like them dealing with the consequences of what they were doing. And I think it kind of like raised a little bit of a question about stealing from celebrities and if that's like, you know, morally, if it's really that bad or not because they're rich and stuff. And like, I didn't realize it was a true story until after I had watched it. And I was like kind of looking at it, you know, that way in a sense. And it kind of made it a little better for me. Because at first I was like, I kind of started to hate it. And I was like, I don't want to hate this.
So soon, yeah. I agree that like kind of like it's like okay, like the ethics of stealing from somebody who it says like I think they broke into Paris Hilton's house like multiple times and they even mention it. They're like they take just a little bit and she doesn't know, so it's just like okay, but it's also like the type of people. It's like they were. We could go into a whole thing like if you steal medicine to save somebody's life, is that ethically wrong? It's a whole different thing than like just some kids on drugs like breaking into like celebrities' homes just to like to say that they did for the clout.
They're kind of doing it just aimlessly too. It was kind of really casual, like the way it starts off. She just kind of like steals out of that car all casually, and like there was really no purpose to any of it other than like having nice things. You know, it seemed a little odd how aimless it was. They're just wandering around and like breaking into those cars and taking stuff out of them, and you know, it just seemed really casual. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I know I bring up The Office super regularly, but when you were talking about the steal medicine, it reminds me of that scene where Andy's like, I'll drop an ethics bomb on you. Would you steal bread to feed your family? Boom. And then Michael's like, I would not steal the bread, and I would not let my family go hungry. It's like, well, yeah. Ideally.
The Office quotes, man.
I'm sure we'll visit it at some point. But yeah, so I really did. I was impressed by the cast list going into it. When I started, I was like, oh, this is going to be dreadful. And then I started seeing the cast. I was like, holy crap. Like, I can't believe how many people are in this.
Yeah.
I think I saw, because it says at the beginning where it's based on true events, but I didn't register that, I guess, and maybe even didn't even really register it until later on when I was looking up some stuff about it. And you're probably right. Maybe that is why the acting is so terrible, you know, because none of those people that at least recognizable names are bad actors.
Yeah.
You know, they're all really good actors that clearly can act really well. Maybe that is just how terrible those people were. Apparently, this is also the first film starring Emma Watson that wasn't based on a book.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I was thinking that, like, when I was watching, because I was trying to, like, put myself in the time frame, because it's, like, 2013, right? And I was like, what was, like, Emma Watson in at this time? And obviously, the only thing I could think of was Harry Potter. And so I was thinking, I was like, is this, like, one of her first, like, breakout movies that she did on the side? Because from my, like, obviously, you guys were like, the acting is terrible. But from me, who had, like, actually watched the show, and, like, I knew that she was just, like, portraying her really, really well. I was like, she is like an actually like good actress, because like I've never seen the Harry Potter movies because I saw like the first one and I thought they were trash. But
I saw, I think, the first two, yeah.
yeah, and so I was just like, So I had never really watched like any of the like Harry Potter cast like in films. So yeah, I thought she did like a really good job.
This was, I guess, after the Deathly Hallows, which is the last one, right?
The Deathly Hallows Part 2, right?
And then she did The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which I've never seen. And then right after this, she did This Is the End, that one movie with like all the actors and actresses that are like actually playing themselves.
Yeah, that movie was actually really good.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Wow. I can't believe you've never seen The Perks of Being a Wallflower. That was such like a whole like Tumblr thing. You missed out.
I mean, I've literally been on Tumblr maybe twice ever. That like Google
just,
searches.
It was a culture reset. I'm just saying. A cultural reset.
Are you all familiar with the director? Sophia Coppola? She did the Lost in Translation and stuff.
I started looking up a couple things. Apparently her husband's in this movie, or at least someone that shares a last name with her. Mr. Hall is Mark Coppola, right? That's, you said the director's name is?
Yeah.
What else did she do, you said?
Lost in Translation. She did Somewhere.
The Virgin Suicides.
Maybe that one.
I guess she's done some acting as well.
Yeah, it looks like Godfather. And it says a Star Wars Episode 1, which might have a really small part.
Sachet. I can't even think of who that is.
Probably like one of Padme's like people.
And
was that in the prequels? Those were the best.
Yeah. We've already disowned you. Would she direct? Apparently she's directed quite a few movies. 24 movies.
She used to be married to Spike Jonze, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah, I wasn't like super familiar. I had seen Lost in Translation before, but I wasn't real familiar with her or anything else that she's done. So, today I read on old Reddit here, right? That only 3 out of 1,000 people that pass away, that die, that are organ donors, only 3 out of 1,000 of them that can actually donate an organ.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you have to. You have to pass away in such a way that you're capped on like life support or something, you know, so they can like preserve your body. So it's like really hard for, I guess, them to even use your organs unless it's like situational kind of thing.
And I'm sure there's other things like blood diseases or, you know, STDs, things like that, that'll prevent it as well.
Yeah.
For some reason, I saw something on organ donor the other day, and apparently all of the organ harvesting is done by like private companies.
Really?
I was watching like Interview with a Mortician or something.
It's a little bizarre.
And they were talking about that. Yeah. It's like private companies will come and harvest organs, and it's not even like the hospitals doing it.
Wow.
I'm like cracking my knuckles. I'm like, this is my time to shine.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah, that's right. You work at a mortuary or whatever.
I work in death care. When I found out that was the name of the industry, I was like, what did you say? Death? But, yeah, that's the thing. Like, working in that, like, industry, I thought I would be, like, planning, like, my dream wedding, like, my dream, like, vacation. No, I'm, like, over here, like, I would want that at my funeral. Like, that's kind of cool. And... yeah, so I do say that actually a lot. I always say that when I die, like I would like for my body to be donated to science if they'll take it. I always add the if they'll take it, because I've like been in situations where they were like, nah, like they're like for like whatever reason, you know, like they didn't. So like I want to make sure like that I have that option. But I'm not just like, yeah, there's a backup plan, because I know that they don't always like accept them for whatever reason.
Yeah. And I guess in Singapore, anyone above the age 21 is automatically registered as an organ donor, and opting out of the act will result in being put on at the very bottom of the organ priority list should you need an organ transplant. So if you're like, nah, I don't want to do that, then
Makes sense.
Then you're kind of, but I don't think in the U.S. I don't think they do that like that. I think because in the U.S. if you're a living kidney donor, you automatically reserve a spot at the top of the priority list. So I guess it's kind of a little bit.
In case you need one kidney to replace your remaining kidney.
So the average wait time for a kidney transplant is 1,600 days.
That's amazing.
I've seen a lot of people on TikTok that were like, a couple guys on TikTok that were like need kidney transplants and stuff, and it looks like a pretty rough kind of life to have. Like I don't know.
I can imagine that's pretty bad. Don't they have to like do regular dialysis or whatever?
Yeah, and that's like a whole thing itself. That's pretty nuts. But I mean, I always said like if I died, like I don't need my organs anyway. But I mean, I guess that like can't always really use them.
Yeah, I've been an organ donor since I got my license.
Yeah.
Same.
It's typically when you sign up for it, as far as I know.
Listen, if you're single and you're listening to this, first date, ask them for their ID and see if you see that little heart, the little donor heart, and that tells you everything you need to know.
Be like,
if you ain't able to give your organs, I was needing a new kidney.
Are you a light sleeper?
Jesus.
You check the back seat when you get in the car to drive home. The chloroform.
Smell like chloroform to you? Apparently chloroform in movies is always completely blown up. Like it doesn't work nearly that fast.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't it's not like it doesn't work any way that they show in movies typically. It's it used to be used for surgeries and stuff as like a what do they call it when they like put you to sleep?
Like an anesthesia? Is anesthesia?
There you go. Yeah, an anesthetic.
Yeah.
So we got a couple pretty good games coming up soon, and I don't know, Mike, you've probably never even heard of this because this was an Xbox One launch title, but it was a game called Ryze Son of Rome. It was an action RPG where you were basically like a Roman centurion type character. I liked it quite a bit. It was years ago. I mean, what the Xbox One released, I think 2012 or some stuff.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Whenever that was. Apparently they're working on a sequel of that now, which is going to be pretty exciting. Next week, we have Biomutant coming out, which is going to be, probably on my top playlist for a while. Hopefully, I'm gonna wait because after Cyberpunk, we gotta be a little cautious on video games.
Yeah. Is that Nordic?
Yeah, it's Biomutant it's THQ Nordic.
And this is like an original game for them, right?
Yeah, and I think so. I think they did a Biomutant in the past, or something like that. But I know they've been talking about Biomutant for almost a decade at this point. We've seen stuff on it for a really long time. Maybe this isn't a sequel. I thought it may be a sequel or something. Yeah, THQ Nordic, they do a lot of really good games. I think they did the Kingdom of Amalur remake.
Mm-hmm. A little SpongeBob one.
Yeah, that SpongeBob. So what they do with some of those is they actually just buy the rights to them and then remake the games. Or like, so with Kingdoms of Amalur specifically, they purchased all the assets for the game, or purchased the legal rights to it and then remade it. And they did a pretty good job. I've not actually played it, but I've watched quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
Also, they did Generation Zero, that game we were playing a while back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Remnant from the Ashes, Desperados 3. I guess they did Hunt Showdown. Well, the U.S. only, so that may be something that they like.
Are they a
produced
Swedish
or something?
Company?
I think so. Yeah, I think they're
because there's a lot of
Swedish company.
There's a lot of stuff in that Generation Zero that's in Swedish. That's what I was wondering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole game is set in Sweden, and that
okay.
For Generation Zero. And then Chivalry 2 has another beta coming up, I believe this coming weekend, and it's going to be the crossplay beta. For those of you that don't know, Chivalry 2 is it's a medieval, it's sort of like Mordor, it's a medieval fighting melee combat game. I had so much fun with it when it came out. Mikey and I played a whole bunch of it. This is going to be another beta or I think just a couple days again, unfortunately. But hopefully, if you have the beta key from the first one, I wonder if you can just get in on it. I didn't see anything about that. But last but not least, the most exciting news I heard recently about video games coming out. Apparently, there's a KOTOR remake in the works, which, those of you who don't know, it's Knights of the Old Republic. It's probably one of the best Star Wars games and one of the best RPGs in general.
Is this for real this time? Because I know some people have been saying that for a while.
We do hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's still rumors, so that's take it with a grain of salt. But it's unfortunately, I think, going to still be BioWare and their current staff, which, take that for what it means. But still, like, it would be hard to ruin a Knights of the Old Republic remake. It's probably one of my favorite games of all time. I actually replay them every now and again. I think last year or so, I played through both of them.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. Good time to be alive, hopefully.
Right, yeah.
We'll see what happens with that, though. I'm curious how the remake will work with, BioWare not being EA or Ubisoft making a Star Wars game, but maybe since it's their title anyways, it would work. I'm not sure. I know Ubisoft just recently got the rights, and they're working on a open world Star Wars RPG. But we'll see how that turns out. Probably a bunch of towers that you got to climb in that.
Right. Little like bins of droid parts you could dive into.
Yeah. I've been shredded.
Okay, so this movie obviously doesn't have like a lot of depth to it, at least in like my opinion. So after Mark goes to school, he goes to school and they berate him. They kind of like let him know that like he is not welcome in a way, like because he's so uncool. Rebecca like reaches out to him and just kind of makes a point and starts inviting him along. And initially I was kind of like wondering about their relationship, but then he makes a comment about another guy saying like, oh, like he's really hot. And then from that point, later on, he comments about how Rebecca was more of like a sister figure to him and was more of just like a best friend relationship. When he had nobody, Rebecca reached out to him, and so he felt like that bond to her. So they begin by going to parties, and then like kind of like taking petty stuff, like they go check car doors, which is like major crackhead energy. And just kind of going through.
I want to go check doors.
Yeah. As soon as he said that, I was like, who? I was like, what? But yeah, so they go check doors, and then they go like, oh, it was a slow, and it's kind of like what I said. There's not a whole lot of depth here. So they it starts off showing that, and they go break into like a friend's house, and I believe it's like another friend's house, and then they find a celebrity. So it's really just a bunch of kids who were bored, kind of like obsessed with the lifestyle, in my opinion, who decided to start breaking.
Wasn't Paris Hilton the first celebrity they break into the house of?
Yes.
So
they break into...
They break it. It's like his friend's house the first time, or the kid he knows or something.
So they break into the friend's house, and then they go to Paris Hilton's house, like, for the first time. And then, like, everyone's just kind of, like, in awe. They're like, there's no... Like, you guys went to Paris Hilton's house. So they go
rich
back.
People just have that much cash lying around their house? Like, they kept finding just like wads of money everywhere.
Yeah. That's kind of odd.
And they were all really good at finding it for some reason.
They're like, oh, a safe in the floor in Orlando Bloom's house. Let me just open that up. Oh, there's a roll of money in here.
Yeah. Oh, a secret hidden room of jewelry in Paris Hilton's house. How did we possibly manage to find that?
So from there, they go back, and obviously they like tell their other friends like what happened, and then they wanted in on it. So they go. It was like Rebecca, Mark, Sam, Chloe, and Nikki who go back to Hilton's house. They just kind of like hang out. It was in her party room, I believe that's what it was called.
Mm-hmm. Her indoor nightclub or whatever.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
nightclub room, I think.
Mm-hmm. And then they, after there, they go to Audrina Patridge's house, which, fun fact, the director was wanting to remove, I don't know if you guys remember the dialogueless scene where they were just kind of like running around like the upstairs and downstairs, like stealing stuff there, and nobody was saying anything. The director wanted to cut that, and that's actually one of like the most like famous scenes of the movie, like that got like the most like positive reviews. So I don't know if you guys remember, but like I had subtitles on, but it said like helicopter noises, so I was like, oh my god, like
It even mentions the helicopters at one point.
Yeah, there's a couple times that there's like a helicopter like in the background, but you know, it is kind of the area as well though.
So that scene like didn't have like any dialogue or anything, so it was just like I just saw like the sound. And after that, like I believe it was in Hilton's house again, is when they like were like commenting on it. No, it was Orlando Bloom's house that they were freaking out about it. And then Megan Fox is when Mark really started freaking out and was just saying like, we got to get out of here. So after Patridge's house, they released the footage showing them, and I feel like that's when kind of Rebecca was just like, oh, like we can get away with this, like they don't know who we are, we can kind of just like keep doing our thing. That kind of like fueled the fire, and that's what like kind of led them to like, I believe they went to Rachel Bilson's house next.
And
they even say, or he says, you know, that the fact nothing happened was the worst part of it, because then she felt like we could get away with anything.
So, yep. So, like, that's exactly, like, it just kind of led to her going, and just kind of, like, everything that happened from that point. So, the series that I talked about watching, I watched Pretty Wild, and it was supposed to be a series about just, like, party girls living in Calabasas, like, just kind of, like, trying to make it. And the very first day of filming, the LAPD shows up and arrests Alexis for, like, being involved in the Bling Ring. So I don't know if you guys remember at the very beginning of the episode, whenever like they were out all night and like they wake up in bed, or like Emma Watson's scene, and she's like, it's time for your Adderall, and like when they pray and all of that is, I'm telling you, is spot on for exactly what happened in that series. Like, it was like, I was like, there's no way.
The way, what's her name? Lisa Mann? Is that actress's name? Like her kind of like mentality and that is very like Hollywood for sure, like Beverly Hills kind of like mom attitude with the spiritual
Leslie Mann, by the way.
Spiritual stuff, and is it? All that, all that kind of like, you know, stuff is real like Hollywood Beverly Hills celebrity kind of mentality, you know, with all the spiritual things and like just like popping Adderall and
super bizarre.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre, disconnected a little bit. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was because I was like, I'm gonna rewatch Pretty Wild as well, and just watching this movie, I was like, I like this scene, like I was just like, they did an amazing job like reenacting like exactly what happened like from my memory. So like I said, like I know you guys were like, I don't know about this acting, but this was literally them.
That's kind of what I chalked it up to be. After I figured it was real, I was like, well, you know, I kind of made that connection there, you know, and like you said, with the there not being a whole lot of depth, and there's not a whole lot of character development, but I mean, I think it just kind of just moves the story along still, you know. That's kind of what the characters were doing. And
and with storytelling in something like this, where it's like a true story, there doesn't really need to be character development,
right?
Like there's no real point in developing characters like that if it's based on true stories, you know, because in real life people don't always develop. Like sometimes a criminal is just a criminal, or sometimes, you know, a party's just a party.
Yeah.
I agree. I was going to go over just like kind of, if you guys want, just like the actual sentences they got and kind of like their part. Okay. So I definitely like agree that like the Bling Ring like shows like a total lack of like guilt and remorse and just like even like shame for like their actions. So just like person by person, I just wanted to do like a quick, like, did they serve time for their actions and like what role they played in the entire thing, just to make sure like we give like each character in there like their little spotlight. So Rebecca was the main one who at the beginning calls out and like hangs out with Mark. And so she served actually the most time. She got the harshest punishment. She got sentenced to 4 years, and she ended up serving only 1 year and 4 months. So, yeah. So Alexis Nyers is played by Emma Watson. She's the one that I reference a lot. And there's a whole scene. I know that I forgot to mention this, and I knew it meant nothing to you guys because y'all didn't know. But when she did the interview with Vanity Fair, she thought, I don't know if you guys like caught on, but she thought she was doing so well, and the like interviewer was just like not. She was like, "What is happening?" So
it was a super uncomfortable scene.
She started like they were so excited to to read it when it was like published, and it says like I don't remember exactly how it began, but she's like Alexis Nyers like walked up in her like 6-inch Louboutin heels. And she was like, she was like, do I own Louboutins? Yes. Did I walk into court wearing Louboutins? Never. I was really wearing a little tweed skirt and 4-inch BB kitten heels. And it was like a whole like meltdown on the episode. And just like, she's like, it's like iconic from like this entire like situation. There's the BB heel, the 4-inch BB kitten heels is like a whole thing. So whenever Emma Watson is like looking for like trying to get dressed, and she like puts on, she has like red bottoms on, and she goes and picks some other red bottoms on, and she says something, they're like, where are your kitten heels? And she goes and picks up the other red bottoms and puts them on. I was just like, oh my god. Like, I was like, you guys like, and I knew, like, I was like, I know y'all don't like, because y'all don't know like the like situation, but it was so like iconic. But
and for y'all at home, you can play a drinking game for every time Landry says like, and you will be absolutely hammered the first few minutes.
Leave me alone. So I'm trying not to say like now, so I'm really struggling.
You're fine.
At least it's not I'm really bad at saying Okay, so Alexis she was sentenced to 180 days in jail. She only served 30. She did also get 3 years probation, and she had to pay a fine of $600,000 to Orlando Bloom for property stolen.
I wonder if they actually paid those off, or if they're still paying them off.
Probably. Courtney Ames was another member of the Bling Ring. She pleaded no contest, and she was sentenced to 3 years probation and 60 days of community service. Okay, so Nick Perego was the one who was portrayed by Mark, I believe, because he was the one who went on talk show circuit, and his initial bragging and posting all over Facebook the pictures of the stolen, like, pictures revealing the stolen property is what, like, got them caught. Damn. So he is kind of off grid now. I guess he learned his lesson. He did serve, he was sentenced to 2 years in jail. He served a year in... So Diana Tamio is actually the one who ended up crawling through the doggy door in the series. They portrayed it by the younger Nyers sister. So she didn't, she had 6 days community service and is still, or she has 3 years of probation. And then Johnny Dangerous, the guy at the fence, he was, charged separately. So he got the most. He ended up getting, I believe, 3 years in jail. And
jeez.
Yeah.
The one that came, was like, took that jewelry and stuff and then left in that one scene?
Wait, no, he was the one that took the Rolexes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the Rolex guy that they drug out of like the nightclub at the end. Basically, it comes down to Rebecca being obsessed with the lifestyle and just kind of influencing the people around her to like join in with her. And then obviously, like from that point, it's kind of like went downhill. From what I've read, they've all just kind of like grown up and moved on. This was like almost a decade ago that all this happened.
Yeah, 2008 to 9, I think, is when it was taking place. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Courtney Ames, the one I mentioned, she she actually wore some of the stolen jewelry to court over this case. So she wore a stolen necklace that she stole from Lindsay Lohan to court while being sentenced to this case. But she didn't have to serve like any time from that. And she only had, like I said, she only had 3 years probation and 60 days community service. And that's on white privilege.
I mean, they got busted and I think they served time, and that's rightfully so. I mean, they did break into people's houses.
Yeah, that was one thing I was thinking of is like they didn't really hurt anyone. Like, they were stealing, right? Like that was probably grand theft for a lot of them. And like burglary, I think, is what that would have come down to as well, with them breaking into houses. Yeah,
burglary of a habitat or something.
But they didn't really like damage anything. I'm sure some of the property was able to be reacquired.
Yeah. I mean, you think Legolas really misses wad of money in this jewelry that got stolen?
Yeah, probably not. If you like things like this, like if you're into fashion, or I mean, I guess even somewhat true crime in a way, or true stories, but honestly, it's kind of boring to me. It was like I kept expecting certain things to happen that never did. So, for example, when they were talking about the Rolexes, I kept thinking that was going to come back, or they were going to get robbed themselves, or something. I don't know. It just kept seeming like they were setting something up, but I didn't really know the story that this was based on. So obviously, I guess it was just based on false assumptions there. The gun scene gave me extreme anxiety. I was like, oh my God, this kid's about to get Pulp Fictioned in the face.
Yeah.
Luckily, that didn't end up happening, but yeah, this would be a hard pass for me.
What about you, Mikey? Would you recommend this?
So kind of the same thing. I mean, in the gun scene, like you were talking about, that almost felt like I was like, this doesn't seem like something somebody would really do. Like, seemed a little silly to me. I don't know. Maybe
I'm gonna be honest. I've seen a lot of dumb people in this world, and I feel like that's one of the most realistic scenes.
Like it didn't really start to pick up for me until like they kind of started to get caught a little bit, and that's when it got interesting, which unfortunately was towards the end. I feel a little better about it knowing that it's, and I don't know why I didn't catch it in the beginning, but knowing that it's real, because sometimes like, you know, it's not entirely fabricated, so it might not be as like shocking and interesting and like, you know, like a movie would be normally. The acting, so the acting I already kind of said, like, I feel like this is how those kind of kids would act and talk, and so I kind of passed the acting off on that. Like maybe it's kind of what they were going for.
Yeah. And they were clearly really stupid kids too. Yeah. So, you know, a lot of that makes sense.
For sure. And it just seemed like like I said, it seemed a little weird how they were just kind of doing it aimlessly, like robbing people and like, you know, just because they wanted nice things and stuff. And I guess, I don't know, maybe that's when people steal, maybe that's kind of part of it. I don't really know. But I don't know. I don't know if I would recommend this. It being kind of like you said, like a true crime kind of, I don't even know if it's like a heist kind of thing. Not really. I don't really know.
Sort of. I guess you could probably call it a little heist movie. It's not, you know, it's not Ocean's 11 or anything.
But even then, there wasn't really a point that it felt like stressful or suspenseful or like, oh, they're gonna get caught, or like, not. I mean, not really. It never really felt like that. Which I think would have made it a little more interesting, but that might have taken some fabrication to make it feel like that. But all in all, I don't think it was bad. Just wasn't really for me.
I'm trying so hard not to say "so" at the beginning of a sentence, and I just froze. I was like, why was that so hard? So this movie was more of a blast from. Damn it! Damn it! Okay.
Hell yeah.
This movie was a blast from the past for me. Like I said, this was the first like series I ever watched on Netflix, or like binge watched on Netflix. So rewatching it now is painful. Like this, the whole like thing. I was like, I can't believe like I was ever like entranced by this type of show.
What was that series called?
It's called Pretty Wild.
Pretty Wild. And you said it's based on the same kind of situation, the same story?
Yeah, so it was supposed to begin, like, it was supposed to be a series about just, like, young girls in Calabasas, like, or about the Alexis, or Emma Watson's character, basically.
Okay.
And the first day of filming, the LAPD like, whenever they were like, control your dog, whenever they busted into their house. I don't know if you remember the little Yorkie flipping out. But that was the very first day of filming on the actual series that I watched. And so they're like, it's changed the entire series of, like, what it was supposed to be and turned it into, like, a series based on, like, her trial during the Bling Ring. It was, like, a 9-episode series. But, so I haven't watched that in, like I said, probably, like, it was, like, 2013, 2014, I think, when that came out, maybe before that. The idea of watching it now, I felt like it fell flat. It was very uninteresting. It was just kind of overall, like, annoying to watch, I guess I could say. So I would not recommend it again. I was hoping that it would just kind of be a change of pace from the type of movies that we had been watching. But... And I'm glad I watched it again because, like I said, like, those little Easter eggs that, like, you guys didn't catch on because y'all didn't watch the other series, it definitely made me laugh. And I was just like, oh my God, like, that's perfect. But overall, like, I don't think this was, like, a top tier movie or that it was something that I would, like, I'm going to go tell people about. But it was definitely, like, I think, like, a nice, like, change of pace for what we have been watching. But no, I would not recommend it.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily a bad movie since it is a based on the true story type thing, but at the same time, like, not every story needs to be told.
Right, yeah. It could have stayed a news story and probably been fine. I mean, maybe that series is pretty good. I imagine it sounds maybe a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys thought that it was just ridiculous, like, basically all of the Emma Watson scenes at home, if you thought they were ridiculous and you were just kind of mind blown by them, you would like the series because that was the entire series. You're just like, is this their real life? But thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode for Geek Squawk,
where the geeks talk.